Selling slack, selling slack. Selling slack, selling slack. Selling slack, selling Sacramento. Buying the block back. Selling slack, selling slack. Selling slack, selling slack. Selling slack, selling Sacramento. Buying the block back.
Oh, we got everybody in here.
As long as you keep it close, sweetie, I'll find you. Because that thing is going to bounce
It's
up.
gonna bounce up.
You
Okay.
can always just handle the mic down. Okay.
Perfect.
Can you hear me good if my mic it's down just a little bit?
I'll find you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 5.
Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. You are listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent P, and we are selling Sacramento. It is still Black History Month.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought this was a short month, but this month has kind of drug on for a long time. And I'm excited. Y'all know I always say I'm excited This month, for Black History Month, during the show, each Wednesday, the theme has been normalizing. Normalizing equity, normalizing the Black family, normalizing. Today, we are normalizing Black storybooks and the authors who write them. And the reason that I chose the word normalizing, I was reading actually the website from one of the authors' books who's here today. And she had a phrase that she used on there called normalizing equity.
Absolutely.
And it made complete sense because for so long, we don't have to beat the drum that everybody knows it's a familiar sound. But we have had to make other people feel comfortable about us. We have always been the ones to have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Get others to accept us. And that really shouldn't be the case, especially if we're talking about humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When we're talking about things like where we appear on television or how our households are run, how the police see us,
Yes.
how we see ourselves. There shouldn't be this far leap or this stretch to try to make who we are matter. And so today we are normalizing Black storybooks because Black and brown children need to see themselves pictured in a way that's positive, in a way where they see that the sky is the limit and beyond, in a way that no matter what they look like, because we come in all shapes, sizes, and colors and shades and accents and all that. Every child needs to be accepted. And we know that at an early age, children are the most impressionable, right? 0 to 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of educators in the room with me, y'all. So they're going to, really tell us. And they are the authors of these books. And so I want to jump right into it because I have direct, what would you say? With each of them, I have a little bit of history where I reached out to them, not for the reason of their books, but for other reasons, with the exception of one. Talina Hutton, I reached out to because of the book. And I got pulled in by the book. When I say I reached out to her, it wasn't just because of the book. It's because my background as a child is art.
Okay.
And when I saw the book, all I saw was the book cover. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
Right.
This is a book I would have wanted to read to my kid. I didn't even know what was in it. I was just, taken by the title. The title of Talina Hutton's book, Grand Feet. I immediately ordered it, got it, and the read it wasn't long, but the story was powerful. And I'm going to tell you all that, and I'm going to jump into my interpretation of the book, and you can tell me if I'm right or not.
I'd love to hear it.
But I first want to hear from you about why this book. Well, actually, let me tell you my interpretation before you say why. So I can't say. As African Americans, we have some different characteristics. And we often are picked out or even picked on, not even just as African American. This book applies to all kids.
Yeah.
Our features that are not like other people's features will get called out.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes, most of the time, they can be a hindrance to us all throughout childhood and carry on. And if we are not careful, if we don't have a community around us to pour into us and say that feature is an asset, baby, then it can turn into a hindrance. And this book is pointing it out in advance. And not only do you have big feet, but they're grand feet. The word grand, just, instead of using big feet,
Right.
grand baby, these feet are gonna do something.
Yeah. Right.
I would be taking pride in my
Absolutely.
big feet if I was that baby. So that's my interpretation. So you
Your
tell me.
interpretation is exactly correct, but it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
I had a dream that inspired the book, and both of my maternal great grandmother and grandmother were there. And it's basically an open love letter to my daughter, who's 7. And I have big feet, I guess, for a woman. I wear a size 11.
Mm.
And so I've always been told, like, oh, you have big feet. And, it's kind of hard finding shoes sometimes. But when my daughter was born, I noticed that she also had big feet. And so like when I say it's multifaceted, there were so many things that were inspiring me at the time to write the book. Dana Maisha also
I
was
saw
a big
that. Shout out to
inspiration and just a
her.
big support system for me during that time. And so, yeah, it's an open love letter to say, hey, you may have big feet, but celebrate them and trust them to carry you along the path of your journey, because they're going to take you everywhere you want to go.
I love that. And I just, again, if I had that book, that's one of those books where you immediately start, if you are a pregnant mother, you want to start saying things like that to your womb.
Absolutely.
You know?
When you were saying like birth to, I think you said the early years. So that's who I wrote the book for, from about birth to about 8 years old or 2nd grade. I had those children in mind.
This book would, if I were to do motherhood all over again, I would probably, after reading this book, be more aware of things going on with my children that other children might be pointing out, or to immediately get in there and combat that and say, and not necessarily to combat it, because I think that God designs us all differently on purpose.
On purpose.
We are uniquely ourselves for a reason. And so if there's something about me that's different from you, it's because that's how God has purposed me for the purpose that he has for me. And so this book just kind of re-emphasizes that, baby, your purpose is these feet right here. They're standing out as a reminder that you're going to do big things.
Right.
I love that.
And yes, it's like foundational. So our feet are, like they support the
It's
rest of our body.
symbolic. Yes.
And so there's so many different symbols. I'm gonna have to sit down and connect them all.
Yeah.
But
Do the breakdown of the
right.
Now that's going to be a thicker book.
Right.
Like, here's the children's version, but here's the symbolism of grand feet.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And you are a teacher by nature,
I am
by trade.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So yes, I've been in the classroom since 2014. I started out as an instructional assistant at Natomas Unified, but currently right now, and I've also been a learning center teacher with Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District for 2 years, where I was working in special ed. Currently, I'm a substitute teacher, and I'm in a couple of districts, Sac City Unified, Fortune School, and Natomas. Sometimes Rubla too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how often now are you getting to read this book?
Every time I'm in the classroom, on every assignment, I carry it with me. I tell people about it. And before I even published, that was like giving me fuel, to finish and motivation, because I was telling people about this book I was writing, and it helped it to become alive. It's like I planted the seed with the idea, and the more I told people about it, helped me get closer to actually publishing. So I carry it with me. I've been doing read alouds. I've been kind of busy during Black History Month, getting out there with reading it to the students. And it's such a good feeling, because they feel like they met a celebrity.
Right.
They have questions, and I let them know, like, you can do this too.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so happy to add, a book by a Black author with Black characters to the site, or just to share that with them, because even though we've come so far, in a sense, there's a shortage of books for our children.
Right.
So I'm
and
really
that shortage being, so the books are out there, but we have to search for them.
Right.
Yes.
They're not readily available in
No.
a classroom.
And I get to be a fly on the wall. So some classrooms I go in and I'll be looking for evidence.
Absolutely.
I don't see enough.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't see any.
Well, think about when we were in school, elementary school, there were those ones, those
Right.
standards, but they didn't look like us.
Right.
No.
I think the closest we had to a character looking like us might have been the Berenstain Bears,
Right.
That's just because they were
Yeah.
chocolate, and it seemed like Daddy didn't take no mess. But other than that, we had Amelia Bedelia, we had
Ramona the Pest.
yes, the whole
The whole
Ramona
series.
series.
Boxcar Children.
The Boxcar Children.
Babysitters Club.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but none of those characters look like us,
Mm-mm.
and we even leaned towards them to try to find ourselves in them,
Yes. Yep.
which then caused us, as we grew up, to try to make
Absolutely.
ourselves other than what God created us to be,
Yep.
because we then wanted to be accepted in accordance with the characters that we were seeing on, in these books and on television. And that's why your books are so important, because they are celebrating Black ethnicity, thick noses, thick lips, dark complexions, nappy hair,
Right, yeah.
all
Oh,
that,
yes,
braids,
yes.
everything, and so I'm getting off track. No, I'm not. This is exactly
Yeah,
what this
right.
is about.
Yeah.
Can you read a little bit from your book for us?
Absolutely. As you grow, you'll learn to wander and explore your world and find your place in it. You may not always know where to go, but I know you'll be bold enough to walk confidently into places you've never been and down paths that will excite and challenge you. Keep climbing to higher heights. At that very moment, my child, look down at those grand feet you were born with and have faith in them to guide you to where you need to be. Trust them to put you on the path to your destiny.
Can I see that book for people that are watching, for y'all that are listening on the radio? Google Grand Feet. For y'all that are watching on Facebook and YouTube, this is the cover of the book. This is the cover that pulled me in, that made me a believer. And you got to get the book to see the rest of the beautiful illustration that illustrates these grand feet and the wisdom that is coming, that you were just inspired to. How long did it take you to write it?
Well, actually, it came really easy to me because I woke up from this dream, and in the dream there were really no words, but it was both of my grandmothers that I mentioned earlier. Feet were on, like, it seemed like ancestral land or just like a path. It was some patchy grass, but anyway, there were no words.
Wow.
But I understood
The message.
and when I
Isn't
woke
that
up, I
wild?
wrote it right then and there.
Girl,
Yeah.
that's when you know God just placed
Right?
that, because there's
Yes.
no human words.
No.
And you just
There were
do
none.
it, and there's nothing
Yeah.
else you can do except get it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do y'all hear that? So somebody listening right now, you need to move on when God puts something in your
Yes.
spirit. Move on when God puts something in your heart, because as you can see now, and we talked about this earlier, you've been on a little bit of a tour with this book, doing
Yeah.
book signings.
Yes, I had my book signing last weekend. I'm really proud of this. A school in Eugene, Oregon ordered 25 copies.
Ooh.
And I was just like, oh my goodness, I was so excited.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how they found me, but I put it out there. I planted the seed and
Right.
made sure
Right.
it flourished. And, here we are talking about 25 orders for, and they're going to do an event also there for Black History Month on the 28th.
Mhm.
So yeah. I'm really excited.
And that's what I often
you
say.
reached out to me. Look, here I am
Well,
on the
you
radio
know,
show.
and that's what I was going to say. I often say on the show that the Bible talks about how your gift will make room for you.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yes.
when that's where the quote unquote magic of God comes in. Because if you're
Yes.
obedient and you move on that thing that He inspires you to do, He takes care of the rest.
Yeah.
There's an amount of work and effort that has to be done on our part, but He puts it in us for a reason.
Yes.
And
don't
when
question it.
Right.
Don't question yourself. Don't question how I'm gonna do this or how I'm gonna do that. Just move.
Absolutely.
Okay, y'all. So this is how the show ends up going over an hour, because we just lean in. And so I want to get to our second guest. I want to take a break, take a breath, take a break. And because we could go on about this, y'all.
Right.
You got authors in the room. That means we can talk literally all day. So you're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in. Angela, hello. And Miss Tara, hey girl, how you doing? Yes, move right. Yes, love this. Yes. Oh my goodness. My brother trying to call me. Can I call you back, Bronze? Okay, turn my ringer off. Okay. Wow. So when we come back from break, I'm gonna formally introduce both of y'all. I think I just kind of jumped on into it, but I did send Jonathan the link, so I keep looking to see if he's gonna pop up here. He said he just left a doctor's appointment, so he may or may not. He might have been feeling the pressure of me when I like, you don't need to comb your hair. He said, Key, my hair. I'm not looking like. I said, it's not like you got a hairstyle. You a boy. But so then when we come back, then we're going to jump also into monsters and aliens, and I want you to read an excerpt too. So the goal of today's show is twofold, because you're all local.
Yeah.
You acted on instinct. Your books are a part of you from your past. And I want people to see that. And you're almost reconciling where we are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so I want us to have a discussion about that too. Especially as we were talking over such a time as this that we're living in. You know, how, because we have books that are already out there that were written, you know, a while back that are wonderful. And the purpose of those books too were to help us embrace who we are. But these books at this time, is he there? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Hey, sir, we see you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. How are you lovely ladies
Well, let me
doing
turn my
today?
volume up over here. Okay, John.
Okay.
We got you, brother.
Thanks for having me. Sorry
You feeling
I'm late.
good?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. All right. No scares or anything, right?
Mm-mm. No
All right.
scares.
All right. We can't have you out of commission.
Yeah, no, we got work to do.
You look fine. You look fine. Not a hair out of place.
Well, you know, I zipped my jacket up. It's a little cold outside.
It is
Well, so you're at home now? You're at home now, Jonathan? You froze up a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, I'm at home now. I'm
Okay.
at home.
Okay, cool. Okay, we are coming back. All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Of course.
Hey, everyone. We're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we are normalizing children's storybooks. And we have with us today Miss Talina Hutton, author of Grand Feet, and you heard about her book before we went on break. We also have with us returning Miss Sonia Lewis, and she is going to talk about her book, Monsters and Aliens. Y'all, the title alone just makes you want to, you're asking the question, what? Monsters and Aliens? Is it a scary book? Is it a,
It can be.
it can be. And so we're going to hear about that. I want her to talk about why she wrote the book. And she's also going to read you an excerpt from that book. And then we also have with us Mr. Jonathan Burgess. And Jonathan is joining us virtually. But Jonathan, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How we doing?
And y'all probably have seen and heard Jonathan's name in the news lately, because this is one busy brother. And he is in the process of getting a very large amount of land that once belonged to their family out in Coloma, that the state took over, returned back to the Burgess family. And when you hear the story, it is jaw-dropping when you hear about the details. Well, Jonathan has taken this to so many levels. He's already testified in to the California Reparations Task Force. He's done a ton of things that I'll let him talk to us about. But the other thing, which is why he's here today, is he has turned their story into a children's book. And it's
Amen.
called Gold Rush, The Burgess Descendants. And so it's an amazing, again, the illustration, the little black kids throughout the book, it's just amazing to see all of that. And so we have Jonathan with us to talk about that as well. And so, monsters and aliens.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us.
So first, let me tell you about the title. So Monsters and Aliens is my take on good versus evil. It is one of those things that I realized very young as a child that I felt different. I looked different. Even within my family spaces, I felt like the black sheep of the family, the oddball out. And so instead of saying, the black sheep or, that kind of thing, I called myself an alien. And I felt like aliens are those type of people who can see the differences that other people have and then help them recognize that the difference is okay.
Wow.
Whereas monsters are people who recognize that they have power and they use their power to, not always for good, and they use that power sometimes to destroy others. And so monsters and aliens is just, my take on good versus evil. And so this book has been many years and decades in the making. It was 7-year-old Sonia who went to school one day and decided not to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And it was just because we had learned a lesson on the Statue of Liberty. And my understanding at that time was liberty meant freedom and an ability to have choices. And I didn't see that for my community. And so the last line of the Pledge of Allegiance, liberty and justice for all, didn't make sense. And when I tried to ask about it, I got shut down. And so I decided I'm not going to say it. So you're not going to answer my questions. So I didn't know the word protest at the time, but my mother, bless her heart, she was like, this child of mine. And it just didn't sit well with me. And so that day and for a long time after, I was punished heavily by my teacher. And it was every day, no recess, every day, no lunchtime. And you stay in here and you write on the chalkboard. We had chalk back then, not whiteboard. So chalk mess everywhere, right? And she wanted me to write that the Pledge of Allegiance is the American way. I, in my 7-year-old mind, who was kind of witty and quirky and, a little smart mouth, that's my nice way of saying I was a little smart mouth, right? My response was, I guess black folks ain't American.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had quick comeback even from a young age.
Yeah.
And so
and not really trying to be sassy,
no.
but just assessing based on what
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so even when the principal discovered that I had been held back for all this recess time for over a month, she was like, okay, so can you tell me why? And I said, I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance when black folks have liberty and justice. And that's all that I could say. Yeah. She asked me to write an essay on it. I did that and expounded on it. She was like, just mouth dropped to the floor kind of response.
Yeah.
And so with the book and with being in education for so long, I wanted to really do two things. One, encourage adults to think back to that first time that you were traumatized, that an adult shut you down and that your voice wasn't important. Because here's the thing that we know, young people are being silenced and have throughout the history of this country because of adult sensibilities, not because they don't know how to tell the truth, not because they don't know right from wrong, but because of adult sensibilities. And so imagine a world where young people don't have to heal from their childhood traumas, right?
Wow.
Take a break, right?
And
think about that.
How much things would be different.
And then secondly, I wanted adults who are reading this book to look at the young people in their lives and say, your voice is valuable. Please let me help you validate it. Please let me help you bring agency and advocacy for your voice. Because there are things that we do to children by saying, shh, you don't know nothing. Shh, we're not going to tell on Uncle so-and-so who did such and such, right?
That part.
And we can take that even into our Black community. And there are lots of layers of things that we hold as children that we are told not to tell because, it can get somebody else in trouble. But what about our oppression, and trauma and pain that we're feeling because of it? So that was the goal. And I'm just really elated to share the story. It's heavy.
This is heavy. You think about, because in school, what they're trying to, there's an indoctrination
Yes.
happening. And if you impose on that indoctrination process, then that's when you're going to get more than kickback.
Yeah.
You know, I'm surprised they didn't kick you out.
Right. My
I'm
mother was
surprised the
extremely
principal
shocked.
actually allowed you to
Yeah.
write an essay on it.
Yeah. So the principal was very progressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was just like, I want to hear more, right? Whereas my teacher that I was assigned to, she was very old school, very traditional. And so when the principal heard about it, mind you, my mother made sure that we went to schools that were primarily and predominantly white. And so we were on an interdistrict transfer. So I legitimately could have been kicked out. Had it been up to that teacher, I would have been kicked out of that school. And sit back right on over there to where all the other little black kids go. You going over there and hold your little protest over there.
Right.
But the principal was very instrumental in making sure that once she understood what I was trying to articulate, and then secondly, that she was an advocate to make sure that she sent the message home to my mom that one, she's not in trouble. Two, I want us to strategize on how to make sure that this is, you know.
What do you think would have happened to younger Sonia had your principal not advocated for you to be able to express yourself?
Knowing my mother, it would have been a fight. Because the first thing she said walking into that office was, my taxpayer dollars pay for her to be here, regardless of the transfer, right? And so she was very insistent on that. Now, this is a woman who grew up in the projects of Chicago, and she was bused to white schools. And so she knew what it meant to go to a black school, and she knew what it meant to go to a white school. And she was insistent that I pay taxes and my dollars matter. And so whatever you have to tell me, you better make sure that it aligns with that principle. And so I know that it would have been a fight. She even says to this day that, we would have taken it as far as we could have.
Right. Supreme Court if it had to.
Yeah. But it was, thank God, Miss Reno stepped in and she was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle the situation.
Was this a white principal?
She was.
Okay.
She was also white. And the teacher that I had, she was an older white lady, but she was like she was the oldest living relic on that school campus. And she kind of ran the show. Even though the principal was the principal, she was the boss of the principal.
Got
and
it.
she made sure that she knew this every day, coming and going. And so that, I think, was part of her reluctance in knowing what to do. And so we worked through it together, the three of us. Yeah.
Read us a little excerpt from Monsters and Aliens.
So, and then the unthinkable happened. All I knew in my mind was that he was a giant tower of chocolate boy joy. His dark brown skin was perfection. It was smooth, buttery, soft, and seemingly unflawed. His smile and laugh were soulful, robust, and infectious. His eyes invited you in to a world where only the language of innocent children could be spoken. A secret world where the motives were pure at heart and unbothered, and an unbothered soul could exist. Like an enchanted forest where trees speak to each other, the truths unheard by those who respect peace for the sake of peace. My cousin Cece gave the best piggyback rides, and he showed us how to make grass angels in the park. See, we grew up in California and there was no snow there. But some people called him slow or retarded. But he wasn't. He was smart, just different, a different kind of smart. Cece was the epitome of an adult child. But later on, he was shot in the back by the police. So that's another layer. 7-year-old Sonia discovered that one of her big cousins was killed during a time where there were no cell phones and no video footage. And he was special needs. And only because he couldn't comply, because of his mental capacity, he was shot and killed in the back. And so juxtapose that with liberty and justice for all. And there you have Monsters and Aliens. Yeah.
When you read that, the thing that immediately hit me was the bond between the two of them. And then that being taken away needlessly just because somebody else viewed me as less than, as undeserving. And that's the importance That's one of the underlying importances of the need to have these types of books and
Absolutely.
information and history in our schools because of the age at which we learn and understand,
Yes.
because of the age that we come to this knowledge of accepting other people. If you put a group of kids in a room that have not been taught to discriminate, they're going to all play with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to celebrate their differences. They're going to touch each other's skin and hair and laugh. And at the end of the day, they're going to be best friends. And it's not until the parents, you called it something earlier, the adult perspective,
Yeah.
steps in with all their biases, all their issues.
Yes.
And because it's on both sides. You know, you have the opposition, the one doing the oppressing, and then you've got us as Blacks during this time of history where, because we're being oppressed, we're sometimes feeling urged to conform.
Absolutely.
Don't say nothing, don't rock the boat. You know, we're trying to exist, we're trying to go along to get along. But at the age that you were like, your parents were obviously doing something different in your household, because it was just embedded in you. This is not right.
From the beginning, the messages were very positive and clear. We had one of my boys asked me the other day, "Mama, is that Black Jesus on Grandma's wall?" And I was like, "Yep." And I grew up with Black Jesus on the wall and other Black art and all kind of Black books. And from the day that I could speak a word, it was or that I understood words, my mother and father were very insistent. You are beautiful, you are smart, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You are beautiful, you are smart, you can do anything. And I believed them. I believed them over anyone else.
Yeah.
Because they showed me.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I say that, you know, the stars just aligned.
Yeah.
You know, had it been different parents or a different neighborhood or a different school, Sonia's story might be different.
Right.
But because the stars align the way they do, I just
Right.
pay homage to them and what they gave me.
And there are parents that are listening right now. What would both of you, what would all of you, starting with you, Talina, and then you, Sonia, and then you, Jonathan, then we're going to get to the Burgess story. What would you tell parents who are listening right now, who are maybe struggling right at that point of, do I conform? How far do I let the reins go? Because they may have that child in their house who's, you know, they can see they're getting ready to buck the system, the house, everything. What would you say to that parent?
I would just tell them to, you know, it all starts at home. And so just, if they have differences, celebrate them and let them, it starts with you too. So if you're confident, your children are going to see that firsthand. And so they're going to learn from that example, no matter what somebody is telling them out in the world. Just like Sonia said, she believed her parents because they instilled that in her. And so if you it starts with you, really. You have to be a confident person and accept yourself completely and wholly and everything about you, even the things that you want to change, and just give yourself grace and ease while you're working on those things, and be transparent with your children. You know, we're not perfect. You know, we all are working on ourselves, and we shouldn't hide that from our children.
That's so important.
Yes.
I like that you said that, be transparent, because it's one thing to have confidence, but confidence doesn't mean you're perfect.
No.
That's great. That's great. What about you, Miss Sonia?
I would say, listen. I mean, the voices, what I have learned over the years, I am a mother of 6 Black boys, and I got to take a pause sometimes and just listen, right? But you will hear them say some miraculous things, and it will cause you to say, okay, what would I have done at that age, you know, in response to that? And let them figure it out. Like, they are intuitively bright. And I just say that they are unjaded. And so let that thing that we have, that because we've experienced some things in the world, let that not be the reason that they can't.
Don't try to squash them or quell what they have going on.
It's our issue.
Right? That's our stuff.
Right.
And we shouldn't be putting our stuff on them.
Because the trauma
Right.
that we're all dealing with. Everybody has some trauma that if you don't deal with it, you will suppress your children in some way, shape, or form.
You will.
Jonathan, what advice do you have for parents?
Wow. Yeah, well, look, my heart is fluttering right now after hearing man, I'm still incredible, ladies. I tell you what, it's always the women that are holding it down for us. I mean, we wouldn't be here without you. So I just want to say kudos to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still shaking from what I heard. So, but wow, it's powerful. Powerful.
She got 6 boys.
My mom had 6 too. Well, not all boys, my mom had 6 too. So no,
What
hats
advice
off to any twins in the family.
My
No.
father is a twin. We hoped for a twin, but it didn't happen. So it was God's destiny. I don't know. We would have stopped after twins.
My mom is an identical twin. I have 5 children.
And none of yours are twins?
No.
Woo!
No twins since them.
More power to you. Jonathan, if you had to give parents advice as to how they could guide their children to acknowledge what is happening or what they feel within their spirit, without squelching them, without pushing them down, so that they can be what they were created to be, what kind of advice would you give parents who are listening right now?
Listen, I mean, every child is unique and different and in his or her own way. And so we can't treat them all the same. And, just knowing that when they do certain things, they're spreading their wings and they're learning. So I guess that the only advice is that there's no one fit. Ladies will tell you 6 children, they're all different personalities, so they each have their unique little makeup, and, what worked for one may not work for the other. So.
Yeah. Well, while we have you on a roll, we got you warmed up now, Jonathan. I had somebody yesterday tell me, hey, Keisha, my wife told me to tell you to look up this guy. His name is Burgess. You really need to get to know him. I said, Jonathan, I think that's
Let me
his
call
name.
him right now.
I know. I'm like,
let me call him.
Yeah. So you are becoming a household name. You are doing you've been doing this for a while. Tell us how long you've been researching your family's history.
Yeah, me personally, I've dug down in the family history about the last 4 years, but it's been my entire life because as stories and publications will attest, it started with our mother taking the interest. And again, I give hats off to you ladies, because the matriarch of the families, you hold it down. And so, but me, the last 4 years really in this journey of researching, what rightfully is our families, that inheritance, that legacy that we talk about. But more importantly, Key, I just want to say this, and I've said it multiple times, this is bigger than my family. Yeah. We can just prove what happened to families all across this nation.
Right.
So I'm honored to be the one to bring it forth and speak about it.
Right. And I saw something not long ago. I don't have her name off the top of my head, but she was instrumental with the Bruce Beach family, and she's now helping you with your family.
Again, listen, hats off to the women again, right? I mean, so Kevon Ward with Where's My Land?
Yeah.
Her organization, and there's a Justice for Bruce Beach. But yeah, Kevon has come on board with our family to move it forward. I've committed myself to even help out. I mean, I'll be doing some sort of donation with these sales of books to her organization, because it's big what they're doing as far as, and we're not looking to just create something for the Burgess family. We want legislation across California that changes it for any family, primarily, descendants of slavery.
And what's good for California is good for the rest of the nation.
Yes, it is.
So yes, that's right. We are looking at legislation, and I just happen to have. I tell people this, we got the receipts, man. We got the receipts.
Literally. So talk to us.
Don't get me on the show and say, "Oh, just be happy. This is your family."
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the book.
Well,
wait, let me say this. There's a couple different versions of the book. There is ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, if you go to Amazon and you type in Gold Rush, Burgess Descendants, you will get links to order the hard copy. You'll get a link to download the e-copy of the
Yes.
book. You can also, there is also a link to getting you've developed a STEM lesson.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yes, I was going to say that to the teachers. Well, I cannot take credit. Again, you know, I put myself around powerful people. They're two incredible, actually three, my sister for some editing, but three incredible women that came on board to help me put this book together. Kimberly Jones is a teacher out of Oklahoma. Michelle Knight is a writer out of New Orleans. And so together, and my sister was very instrumental as well, Dr. Tanya Burgess, we collectively put together a book. There's a STEM program that, you know, it's designed for the classroom or the homeschooling. So, you know, you can go to our website, burgessbrothers.com. If you pre-order the hard book, you'll get a link to download the STEM program. So if you're teaching at home, but yeah, immediately. And so the pre-order is just because, you know, it's going to take a few weeks for me to get the hardbacks in hand, but it's just something that everybody, you know, I mean, this book will change. I'm sure there'll be another one because there's so much to this story, but I wanted to put something out and really tell our story. You know, so long we've let other people tell it, and we get the half-truths or the non-truths, or we're not existing. You know, I think you heard me or as quoted NBC Nightly News. You know, I told them, I put it on my social media today, you know, if you just included us in all U.S. history, we wouldn't need 1 month. Because every part of the U.S. history we had something to do with. So
that right there, you know. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about what the book is about, and then we're going to take a break. And when we come back from the break, can you read us an excerpt from the book?
Yeah, I'll read an excerpt from the book. So really, I mean, the book is about, you know, my great-great-grandfather, what I know from a handwritten autobiography. So it's based on historical primary documents. It also, you know, but it tells, you know, from slavery, you know, being sold, being split by family to actually arriving in California. And again, one of the unique things about California, I know as a kid, they don't talk about Black pioneers. Right. You know, the African Americans that we're getting all the gold out. I mean, you think we're making this money rich? You know?
Yeah, you're gonna need a lot of series in that book.
So and the other part, I'd be remiss if I didn't show this. You know, there have been and were good white people that helped, that gave deeds, that did things, and so that gets overran too. The book talks about, you know, the men that gave my great-grandfather deeds to his property. You know, some that I actually put in the book, by the way, too. I put some of those family heirlooms in the back of the book because I want kids to know, but the importance of education and reading. And so it's just like I said, a timely book, and there's so much that it covers, but in a kid's way, right? So not to be divided, but to share, you know, these triumphs. And, you know, listen, we're some incredible folks. We are.
I like that you brought up the fact that there were white people who were allies, and that's important because they, just like us being erased from history, they too were erased from history because, you know, they didn't want anybody knowing that there were people that were actually helping. There were white people.
I'll give you a fun fact. There's a guy, I put it in the back of the book. Our great-grandfather sold peaches to the W.R. Strong Company in Old Sacramento in 1885. He probably drove his wagon down. W.R. Strong was a mayor in New York, had multiple, you know, fruit distribution companies. He was in Old Sacramento in 1885, and there's no mention of W.R. Strong. Wow. And he's a white man. And why? Well, guess what? You know, there were black farmers that were selling him fruit. Yeah. So again,
erased from history.
If you went against this machine, it didn't matter what nationality you were. And so I'm just honored to be here, and carry the torch for our lineage of folks, and provide the receipts to say, no, this is what happened. So, yeah.
And there's also a coloring book.
Yes, you know, there's a man. Okay.
Anyway, you can make a book. Hey, Jonathan has made this book into that. You know, I'm expecting the movie to come next.
There will be a movie, a documentary, and a movie. There's so much, but yeah, there was a coloring book that will accompany this book as well. I even put some questions. You know, the moms will appreciate this because, you know, my mom used to always do reading comprehension. So what happened here, right? I put a little deal in there where, you answer a question right, there's a British Brothers, packets of surprise for you, right? So I got some, NFL guys that I'm looking at to see if we can't get them sponsor some of these little waffle machines to go to the kids to entice them, give them some motivation for paying attention and learning this education. So.
And get a churwaffle. Am I saying that right? A churwaffle.
That's right. Churwaffle mix. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because that's the other part of Jonathan's life. The Burgess brothers are an industry food machine.
Yes.
Well, we are, Kiva. The other thing that I put in there too is, I let it be known that I'm a firefighter, because I do want to see more of us know that we can do that. Not only just a firefighter, but somebody that's in a position of leadership. And so, seeing's believing. I want little people that look like me, that say, yeah, I can achieve that too. If that's, if that's what you choose to do. So
to that point, let's talk about Matthew, your twin brother. What is his occupation and what is he ultimately doing?
Well, yeah, so Matthew's 25, 26 years law enforcement. For the, he gets mad if I say the agency, but I usually just call him, if you go down the highways, they patrol those. Okay. So I won't say the agency, but, that's what Matthew does. And, he's a big help, has been a big help with moving the business forward. He was at one point running for the California State Senate. It was too much on his family and him, and so he decided to pull out of that. And just, rightfully, it's just as well, because, listen, I don't know if you heard his powerful quote in National Geographic magazine, but he just said that, our ancestors wouldn't stop, and we won't stop till we get resolved. He didn't say it like that, but about this land theft that occurred, in California and across this nation.
And if the time comes again for him to run again, it'll be the right time. It'll be.
That's right. That's right. It's not right now.
So we appreciate that. So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we want you to read an extra book, and we're going to give you all some final thoughts. We're coming close up on the hour. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody watching. Mike Snell. Hey, sir. How are you? Hey, Miss Angela, you done wrote a paragraph, girl. I got to put my glasses on here. For real, though. What's she saying? And says, just want to add and say
I broke up. I can't hear anything. Poe. I froze up, Key. I can't hear anything. Let's see. I think we have.
Glad you didn't go away, John. Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys now. I'm like, what happened?
That was weird. I don't know. I think something was happening to the connection. But now we are connected. AT&T. I don't even know who that is. I'm not AT&T. I'm T-Mobile. Is one of y'all's phones AT&T? You
Oh,
AT&T? We might be good. You got a
tell
public.
Angela, thank you, Angela. You're so very welcome. And we're working on something now to do a bigger meal program, you know. So yeah, that's something that myself and Matthew have been working on with making sure we feed our people. So
3,
They said they love your
1,
food.
go.
We are back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE, and we are going to have a reading from The Gold Rush, The Burgess Descendants. Mr. Jonathan Burgess, take it away.
all right, so I'm just going to give you guys a little glimpse of the inside of the book. And there's a cartoon guy. It's supposed to be me. It looks kind of like me, but here we go. So the Burgess family, first generation, first chapter. Buckle your seatbelts for a ride of emotions. Where do we begin? Ah, yes, the Burgess name. Did you know that everybody's name has a meaning? For example, my name is Jonathan, which means man of great strength. Burgess also carries a wonderful meaning. However, unlike my name, its meaning, I must explain a bit more about the last name. Burgess translates to a group of lawmakers, specifically in the government branch of colonial Maryland and Virginia. Although slavery may seem like a million years ago, it took place a couple centuries ago. During the 1600s, Virginia established the House of Burgesses to create laws to keep social order. It's safe to say that Burgess can also mean to help people.
I cannot wait to
Right.
get that. Yeah,
Okay.
that needs to be, all of these books
Yeah.
need to be in the classrooms. They need to be in our homes. And at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that there are books that are out there. They're just not as easily accessible as the books that our kids have access to in the schools. And these are the types of books. The difference between the books that the three of you have written and the books that existed that were written for Black children to see other Black children when, you know, they were our age, is that your books have an amount of courage that probably would have gotten banned if they tried to write them 20 years ago. You know, that you wouldn't, I don't know that the receipts would have been available. That information would not have been available to you for you to even write that book, right, Jonathan? You know,
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason,
Absolutely.
the timing of it all. Sonia said the stars aligned,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You said there was a dream, Talina. You woke up from
Right.
a dream and could not help but to write it. There were no words. And so I'm just a firm believer that for such a time as this, all of this is happening. And so I would like for you each to have some final thoughts, if it is links or websites or next book signings or book availabilities. Y'all all get yours 60 seconds. Go, Miss Talina.
All right, so my book is available on my website and on Amazon. So if you just type in Talina Hutton Grand Feet, it will come up on Amazon, but it's on my website, which is grand-feet.square.site. And also you can go to my Instagram and find all my links. It's at grand.feet on Instagram. And yes, please support and just keep your eyes open for future books and additions to this Grand Feet.
So you're not going to stop
I'm not
writing
gonna
after
stop,
this?
no.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sonia.
So I wanted to say three things to wrap up. One, that I am inspired by young people always. And so Marley Dias comes to mind because she was at 8 years old. I think she's like 16 now. So this has been a while ago. She organized a book drive at her school to bring awareness to this very issue. And she now is this like mogul and little boss woman as a young person at 16. Yes. to these three stories and the importance of them being at the epicenter and at the forefront of young people's mind, regardless of what their race and ethnicity is, is super important because the narration has been so far from the truth. And then thirdly, like there is some synergy around what we do as individuals. And I would like to see more of that happening, you know, here in Sacramento. After I had my book launch weekend before last, we had an authors panel and I was like, we got to do this again. And so I am like of the mindset that I don't like to, you know, take up space for just myself. I want to make sure everybody is getting, so whatever authors are out there, let's do something. Let's create something so that these are ongoing conversations that we can have with children and they can see firsthand that I can do this too.
Dana Mesha comes to mind.
Yes, she comes to mind, and I wore her T-shirt on purpose. This was from last year's Malcolm X Festival, and she was like, "Sonia, you got to be there, and I got a T-shirt for you." And I wore this because I was thinking of her this morning about the book because she's been such an inspiration when it comes to just reading and our young people reading. So I'm glad you mentioned her name.
We dedicated the book to her. She was so instrumental in my daughter reading fluently now. Just from being
taking
there
part
every
of those
Wednesday
classes.
At boys, girls around the way girls book club. She also has the boys in the hood book club. But just being around her energy, if you know her, you can also let me give her bookstore a plug. You can also get Grand Feet inside All Things Literacy in Florence Square. I'm going to be on rotation donating books. I did 20 so I think they still have some left.
Good. Thank you for the shout out to that bookstore and to that plaza. Because I tell y'all all the time, they take my check on a regular.
So. I'm always and then finally, the book can be found. It will be officially dropped on Amazon on Thursday, tomorrow. So the printing process is starting. We've had some hangups. But and there are going to be 3 versions. There'll be the ebook. We'll be working next month on the audio version. So I'll be in recording studio reading every word, right? So I got to drink a lot of tea and hot water. But still people can purchase it on my website as well, which is ascribesuccess.com. And so that's where you can find and learn more about monsters and aliens.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Tomorrow's the day. Jonathan.
Yes. Listen, ladies, take it away. You guys did it. You guys do the doggone thing now.
We did kind of talk about where to find your book, but remind us again.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Amazon. It's a paperback and the Kindle is located on Amazon. Gold Rush, Burgess Descendants is there. It's also the ebook. If you're a library or educator, Ingram Sparks has the wholesale units available, so you can go there. We'll be doing a launch here pretty soon, in a couple weeks, official launch, and so I'll have some available at a launch. And more importantly, this book is gonna go back to the nonprofit, the African American Gold Rush Association, so that we can continue create that sustainability, but share stories like these, inspire other people to write books. I've gotten some great reviews from people saying they want to write, and I'm like, write your stories down. So that's it. It's just something that if you're in California, even if you're not, great granddaddy came from Virginia, so people in Virginia need to get this book too. And they went to Kentucky, and they came to Louisiana, and then it came here, Missouri. So I mean, this book touches a number of states.
Hands across America with the Burgess story.
And it is diverse. It is diverse. I was very intentional until there's a capture in it where it's like me talking to children. I made sure that I got representation of everybody, so you can look at this little picture and see yourself, regardless of what shade you might be or who you might So again, it's just an incredible good book. Hats off to Michelle Knight for really putting her heart into putting this to life to bring it. Kimberly Jones for putting the educational piece. I just happen to be the family member to put the stuff down, but it's always I'm going to defer to you women, man. I mean, and like strong, sisters just get it done. I appreciate that.
One of my aunties always says, I want to talk to you. That means we want to thank you. So we want to talk to you, Jonathan. It's time to go. It's beyond time to go, but I have grace and mercy, y'all. You have been listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I want to thank all of our awesome guests today for taking the time to be here. And remember, y'all, if you were doing what you were created to do, I will see you at the top. Woo! Good show. Thank you, Jonathan. Oh, he immediately.
He's like, I'm going.
Look at what guys do.
Right, he's a guy. Thank you guys for watching. We're going to get out of here, y'all. Sean Carter, yeah, we took care of that. Thank y'all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.
Can I get a selfie of us?
Yeah, absolutely.